Welcome to the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia Mayoral Forum. It is with the utmost pleasure that I serve as your MC for today's virtual gathering of 1,400 plus business and civic leaders from every corner of our city and region. So with just a little over a year since the stay-at-home orders were issued in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, we come together here virtually to talk lessons learned, the significance of public-private collaborations, and also the commitment to equity in doing so, and the strength of our region, and of course, a look ahead. So we are very glad that you have taken the time in your day to participate, and we hope that you're going to be an active participant. So make sure that you enter your comments and your questions in the chat feature on the event homepage. And we really hope to have time at the end of the program so that you can share your thoughts with our keynote speaker, Mayor Jim Kenney. And we're also very fortunate to have key members of the mayor's cabinet join us throughout the program. We're going to hear from the city's health commissioner, Dr. Thomas Farley, Philadelphia Police Commissioner, Danielle Outlaw, and the City of Philadelphia's Commerce Director, Michael Rashid. So all of this, of course, is made possible with the support of so many area businesses. So allow me to take a moment to thank our sponsors.
Our sponsors are Title and Technology sponsor, Comcast NBC Universal. Chairperson sponsor, Jacobson Strategic Communications. Premium sponsors, Independence Blue Cross. Morgan Properties. PICO. Stradley Ronan. University of Pennsylvania and Penn Medicine. Visit Philadelphia. Wisfis Bank. Our co-sponsors, Community College of Philadelphia. Diversified Search. ESM Productions, a Rock Nation company, JLL, NEF, Philadelphia Eagles, Philadelphia Foundation, Philadelphia Youth Network, and Temple University. And finally, our supporting sponsors, A. Pomerantz and Company, BOMA Philadelphia, General Building Contractors Association, NovaCare Rehabilitation, Rivers Casino Philadelphia, and Urban Engineers.
It is now my pleasure to turn the program over to the chair of the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia and president of Jacobson Strategic Communications, Sue Jacobson. Thank you, Sue. Welcome.
Thank you, Lucy. And we really appreciate having you with us today to serve as our MC. So welcome, everyone. This is another one of those days when we only wish we were gathering today in the convention center. And that's the kind of human engagement we are all missing after the past year spent on Zoom. But finally, it actually looks like there are better days ahead of us. And a day like today is also especially important because it is the moment each year when in normal times we welcome our mayor to speak with us about the state of our city and how we as a community can work together to make it even better. But we all know these are not normal times. And we also know that the work we have ahead isn't just to go back to normal times, but to go forward in building a much, much better future for the people of our city and region. And no one believes that more than our mayor. He cares deeply about this city. And quite frankly, no one has a job that's tougher right now than our nation's mayors and governors. They are on the front lines of unprecedented challenges to public health, to our economy, and to equal justice. And there are no easy solutions. We know that. But as I have said before, and I can't say it enough, we as an organization, the Chamber, are determined to flip the old script in Philadelphia. Because as citizens, we are not satisfied with a racial and economic divide our city faced even before any of us had heard of COVID. And after a year of crisis that made things so much worse for so many, we have committed ourselves to a far higher level of ongoing commitment and of partnership with our mayor and actually with city council as well, that we know is essential to our collective future. So for us, public-private partnership, it's not just a buzzword. It's deep in our history and it's essential to our future. And the chamber and the city, we've collaborated in the governance of PIDC actually for more than 60 years. So we have not only a tradition, but we've got a working model. And the challenge we face now is how to take it to a whole new level in driving growth to every corner of Philadelphia, and actually, especially for those who've been left behind. That mutual commitment, it's actually to inclusive growth, to creating jobs, and expanding opportunity is core to the Chamber's Recharge and Recovery Initiative we launched last September. And working closely with the Mayor's Office, the Commerce Department, and City Council, Recharge and Recover initiatives have identified, aligned, and begun to take action on the ground, in the communities, and for the people who need our help and investment. And here's just one example. So since the launch of Recharge and Recover, the Chamber's Business Attraction Council, Select Greater Philadelphia, they collaborate closely with the Commerce Department to showcase the city and region's business assets for a range of industries. Because as they start hiring again, from technology and biopharma to call centers and logistics, we want those jobs to stay here. The Chamber is working with City Council to make sure their constituents know about the opportunities to connect to jobs and training in the Philadelphia Skills Forward initiative. So when you have a partnership between Accenture and Graduate Philly and Philadelphia Works, you've got the pieces in place to train and place workers whose work lives have been upended by the pandemic. We have to get people the upskills they need to get back in the workforce, and we're determined to help them. We've worked closely with the Mayor's Office, communicating to our congressional delegation the federal relief and investment needed to support Philadelphia's economic recovery. And that partnership has not only been critical in recent months, it's only more so now as the work moves to the federal appropriations process and the infrastructure bill ahead. And just last week, the Chamber worked with the Commerce Department to host hearings with City Council about how we can make doing business with the city easier and more customer friendly, especially for the small businesses who are essential to our economy and communities. So I think it's clear that these kind of commitments, they really go beyond politics and partisanship. And as an organization, the Chamber has an incredibly diverse membership that's dedicated to making Philadelphia a place of opportunity for everyone. And we are determined to face this moment together because we know that when this moment calls for is a fundamentally new, deeper, and more relentless commitment to addressing the systematic social and economic challenges that have held Philadelphia back from fulfilling its promise for all Philadelphians. And we know Mayor Kenney and his team, they feel the same way. And we are so happy to welcome him today and eager and excited for the work we all have to do together in the months ahead. So Mayor Kenney, welcome.
Thank you, Sue, and thank the Chamber for having me and for gathering our regional business community together. We have all been through a lot, and as you mentioned, it will take all of us here to work together towards an equitable recovery. 1 year ago, COVID-19 arrived in Philadelphia, and our lives were changed forever. I remember the uncertainty our administration felt in those early days, the questions we had, the worst-case scenarios we were playing out in our heads and planning for. Early on, we made the difficult but necessary decision to halt all non-essential business activity and government services in order to help slow the spread of COVID-19. Just a week later, exactly a year ago today on March 25th, we reported the first death of a Philadelphia resident from COVID. I actually want to ask everyone to please join me in a brief moment of silence in the memory of the more than 3,200 Philadelphians we've lost in the days since. Thank you. As the days and weeks passed, it quickly became clear that what we hoped would be a temporary setback was going to be a far greater challenge with lasting consequences. Each of us has sacrificed something over the last year, and we've seen the impacts continue to ripple out into our communities. People lost jobs, students were suddenly doing all their learning online, despite the fact that many of them had no internet access at home. Families struggled to pay rent and put food on their tables. and longtime neighborhood businesses were forced to shutter forever because they could not withstand the economic strain. City government stepped up wherever we could, and we sought out partners to help us fill the gaps where needed. More than $140 million in government, philanthropic, and private funding has been directed to Philadelphia's small businesses and nonprofits since the pandemic began, including 4 separate grant programs that have supported thousands of businesses and counting. Our Philadelphia Worker Relief Fund provided cash relief to more than 2,100 workers who were left out of federal and state relief programs. 95% of those recipients were people of color, and 58% were women. The PHL Rent Assist program has distributed $65 million in emergency rental assistance to over 14,000 Philadelphia households. In 2020, we distributed more than 16 million pounds of food through food distribution sites, thanks to partners like Philabundance and Share Food Program, plus 7.7 million student meals. We opened more than 70 access centers to serve our most vulnerable students, hosting around 1,200 children per day. PHL Connected, in partnership with Comcast, Philanthropy, the school district, and other schools, has provided more than 15,000 internet connections for K-12 households to support virtual learning. And of course, we tried to tackle the virus head-on through education, increased testing, targeted restrictions, and now distribution of vaccine. A year later, many of those same challenges from 2020 still persist for our residents and business. While we are making progress on our battle against COVID-19, we also know that transitioning to a new normal will present its own difficulties. That's why I'm so thankful to have a seasoned, dedicated team of public servants, including 3 members of our administration, joining me today, helping our city navigate what comes next. And we are all equally grateful to have partners like the Chamber of Commerce who are eager to be part of this work by standing up projects such as the Chamber's Recharge and Recover, Inclusive Economic Recovery Plan, and the new Ready, Set, Philly initiative we announced together yesterday. We must push forward with vaccination. We must rebuild our economy. We must address the crushing crisis of gun violence. And we must also work on the other issues that plague our city even before the pandemic, opioid abuse, homelessness, poverty, the need to improve education, and deep-rooted systemic racism. Philadelphia's next chapter will be entirely dependent on our ability to work together as we take on these challenges, both new and persistent. It will take all of us, government, the business community, our educational institutions, philanthropy, and more, for our city and our region to succeed as America begins to recover. Despite the hard times we faced last year, let's also remind ourselves that Philadelphia has always been a place of remarkable resilience. With the pandemic and its economic aftershocks, everyone expected business interest and development to decline significantly. But 2020 actually saw a number of notable investments in Philadelphia, including new logistics and distribution warehouses, and of course the development commitment at the old refinery site, which is expected to create 10,000 permanent jobs over the next 10 years. Our life sciences industry, already booming before the pandemic, has experienced even more growth as companies seek space to expand so they can bring life-changing concepts and research to market. And there are countless stories of small businesses successfully pivoting and learning new ways to grow. These wins are still worth celebrating. We also want to take the opportunity today to make clear to all of you that our administration is committed to doing everything in our power to not only restore Philadelphia to what it was before the pandemic, but to ensure we come back even stronger. We will work together along with our partners across sectors to keep Philadelphians healthy, keep them safe, and help them thrive. It won't be easy, but we are committed to building a better, more inclusive city where all people, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, religion, ability, or socioeconomic status, can be successful. And of course, at the heart of all this will be a concerted effort to limit further spread of COVID-19, so we don't have to relive the past year over again. Luckily, we will continue to have one of the best public health professionals, Dr. Tom Farley, at the helm to guide us through.
Thank you for that. And speaking of, we're actually going to welcome him in just a few seconds. We'd like to talk a little bit more about the virus and the vaccination. So let's welcome Health Commissioner Dr. Thomas Farley to join us. Welcome, Dr. Farley.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you too. So looking back, Dr. Farley, obviously this could take 3 days to talk about. What have you learned and what have you taken away from just the last year?
Well, even though we always knew that there could be a pandemic somewhat like this, this virus continues to surprise us. I think the key lesson for us in public health is that you have to expect the unexpected. And that any individual plan is unlikely to be something you can put into place because the unexpected is going to happen. So you have to have the ability to identify unforeseen problems quickly and respond quickly. Another thing we've learned is that when this is such a big crisis, that people and organizations want to help. And a lot of people want to come forward to help, and that's good. And if you ask them to help or ask them to do things individually, they're likely to do that, which means that our ability to communicate a changing strategy given those unforeseen events is really important. And matter of fact, I'd say there's nothing more important in responding to this emergency and probably all emergencies than our ability to communicate.
Dr. Farley, it makes it seem a little bit more manageable when you think of a coronavirus season the way that we think of flu season, for example. But still, you're going to have businesses having to adjust, government having to adjust. What policies can employers put into place to prepare for people coming back? And also, what approach will the government take to balance safety and the economic stability that we need so badly right now?
Well, we will in government always be thinking about economic stability and safety, and they really are hand in hand. If we have a weak economy, that has a lot of health implications and a lot of adverse health implications if our economy is bad. So we're always going to be working on that. As far as employers in the city, everyone should just recognize that while we're going to make a lot of progress in the next couple of months with vaccination, this epidemic is going to have a long tail on it. We're not going to eradicate this virus in 2021. We're probably not going to eradicate it in 2022. And so it's going to be a different world, even though we can have a world that is successful. It's going to be a world in which we're going to need to vaccinate people and maybe vaccinate people repeatedly. It's going to be a world, because the virus is out there, that we're going to need to continue to wear masks. And a world where we're probably going to want to have increased ventilation in every opportunity. So we have to think about how to build this in a way that is really, truly sustainable. I think it's possible to do that and be successful in business and health at the same time.
Obviously, Mayor Kenney, we want to hear what you think about this, because if Dr. Farley says, hey, don't reopen or lift restrictions April 4th, let's wait until the 30th, you got to react to that. So tell us what you think about holding off a little bit longer.
I have committed myself to abiding by the science and the medicine. It makes people angry sometimes that the political considerations that the people want me to make to kind of either subdue the restrictions or to not do the restrictions, I think need to be avoided and need to be resisted. And I think that people need to be disciplined, and they need to think about each other, about how what we do on an individual daily basis affects each other's health and welfare. And I think that's what's really, really important. And I know Philadelphians have the capacity to do that. They've done it in the past. And this was, again, a very difficult, unique situation in this last year. And I look at this like almost like what people went through in World War II, without the Army and the Navy. But the point is that we need to sacrifice, be disciplined, and help each other out and get through this. It won't be that much longer, but the more we resist that discipline, the longer it will be.
Mayor Kenney, thank you. Dr. Farley, thank you too, of course. We're going to take a moment now to hear from Delilah Wilson-Scott. She is the Executive Vice President and also Chief Diversity Officer with the Comcast Corporation.
I trust that while we are not all physically together, every single one of us here is connected by the hope we have for our city. In order for our city to effectively recharge and recover and have a truly equitable recovery, we must take a look at a variety of factors. One of the most critical aspects of any local economy is the health of its small businesses. They support families, they provide diverse sets of goods and services, they create jobs. They are our neighbors. And in the past year, they have faced unprecedented challenges. We also know that if a small business is owned by a Black, Asian, or Latinx individual, it was much more likely to have weakened cash flow, low access to capital, and be at a greater risk for closure. This harsh reality is why we launched Comcast Rise, to provide small business owners who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color with the marketing and technology resources and tools they need to survive and thrive as they recover from the pandemic. Last June, our chairman and CEO, Brian Roberts, announced our $100 million commitment to advance social justice and equality, a pledge that builds on our longstanding commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We met more than 160 local small business owners who have already gained access to marketing and technology services through Comcast Rise. And next month, we will award an additional 100 businesses with grants of $10,000 each from the Comcast Rise Investment Fund. We were fortunate to collaborate with many local partners on Rise, including PIDC, the Enterprise Center, and the Philadelphia Association of Community Development Corporations, and of course our various chambers, just to name a few. These trusted organizations and their leaders have been working relentlessly to support small businesses, from helping them gain access to PPP funding to sharing information on local resources. And we thank them for their work to drive inclusive recovery. Of course, our support of small businesses and entrepreneurs is just one of the many ways we're leveraging our resources to foster inclusive growth in our region. This year marks our 10-year anniversary of Comcast's flagship program, Internet Essentials. Just earlier this week, we announced that we'll be investing an additional $1 billion towards digital equity over the next 10 years. This will help us reach and impact well over 50 million people by equipping them with the tools and resources they need to not only succeed in, but to help shape our increasingly digital world. This pandemic has laid bare the realities of not being connected to the internet. And we knew that in this moment, we must reinforce our commitment to digital equity, starting with our very own public school students right here in Philadelphia. Whether it was helping to secure laptops, connectivity, or digital literacy training, Comcast accelerated our efforts to ensure that every student could have a pathway to distance learning. Of course, no one entity can remedy complex systemic issues alone. And with the need for unprecedented collaboration across the city, public and private partners came together to launch PHL Connected, a comprehensive program to ensure that our children could have devices and a high-speed internet connection to continue with their studies. With Comcast's $7 million leadership gift, alongside our fellow funders, we have helped to facilitate more than 15,000 internet connections for our students at no cost to their families. In addition to access to the internet at home, we're continuing to open Comcast Lift Zones, safe, community-based centers powered with Wi-Fi coverage where students can attend school remotely outside of their homes. We're so grateful for our partners who have helped us open over 40 lift zones in the region so far, with many more to come. We know that tech skills are also imperative to shape the future of work and to thrive in a digital economy. This is why we are expanding our digital equity strategy to build on connectivity and basic education and to provide those adaptive technology skills that will bring opportunity and create lasting impact across all of our neighborhoods. Partners like Coded by Kids, the Philadelphia Youth Network, the Urban League, and Perscolas are just a few that share our view that economic justice is a sound path to social justice. Despite the light I see in our future, today we continue to witness ongoing acts of violence against the Asian American community, and we know that our work is far from done. Violence is simply unacceptable, and we are proud to stand with our fellow Asian American and Pacific Islander friends, partners, and community members. We must remain steadfast in our fight against injustice and inequality. I want to thank the mayor and all of the region's leadership in standing with the AAPI community in this difficult time. Together, we have the fortitude to emerge as an even stronger city and a more inclusive economy. Thank you for your time today. I look forward to our partnership and investment in the future of our region.
Thank you, Dalila, for that message. And when we think of a city, we certainly think of its people. And Philadelphia's vibrancy and the future of our community and economic health depend on people. So as the mayor mentioned yesterday, the city of Philadelphia, the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia, and also a broad and diverse coalition of employers and organizations announced Ready, Set, Philly. It is a 12-month initiative that's going to provide information and direction to encourage, to support and promote the safe return to Philadelphia so that people have the confidence to return to the office, to eat at restaurants again, take advantage of all the things that make our city so great. So yet another example of Recharge and Recover PHL efforts to collaborate and harness the collective resources and also the knowledge of our city and region to move us forward and reset for success. So re-energized business districts and commercial corridors, they are key to this initiative. So I'd like to invite Mayor Kenney back, and along with him, Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw and Commerce Director Michael Rashid. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
So, Michael, I'd like to start with you since you serve as one of the Ready, Set, Philly Advisory Council tri-chairs. As the city's economy is beginning to restart, what are the investments that you believe need to be prioritized in this budget just to make sure that the economy can actually rebound at the level that we need it to?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. A little bit of resetting. Before the pandemic started, Philadelphia was in the midst of unprecedented growth, a 10-year period of unprecedented growth in our economy. But while the overall economy was growing very robustly, the black and brown economy was struggling here in Philadelphia. Pre-pandemic, in the black economy, for example, while there were 22 businesses per 1,000 white businesses per 1,000 white people in our city, there were only 1.8 black businesses per 1,000 black people in our economy. That just goes to show you the poor condition of black businesses in our city. Once the pandemic happened, 41% of black business people actually went out of business between January and April of 2020. Now, some have come back, but it just goes to show the economic insecurity that so many black and brown people and business people have had in our economy. And the pandemic did not make it better. Obviously, the pandemic made it worse. So as we went into the pandemic, we saw the business community suffer. We also saw the disparities in health between the black community and the overall majority community. So as we try to come out of the pandemic, as Sue Jacobson said a few minutes ago, we don't want to go back to normal. We want to go back to a new situation, a situation of much more equality in our community. And equality has to start with economic security for the black and brown businesses that we have. And so we're so happy, we're so enthused by the partnership that we have with the Chamber of Commerce and others to try to build up black businesses, to build up brown businesses, because the city cannot do it by itself. The mayor talked about the great things that the city has done. We pumped over $140 million into the economy in the black and brown economy into the last year to try to build up the businesses. But much, much more has to happen, and we can't do it by ourselves. And that's why we're so happy to partner with the Chamber of Commerce on their programs. The most important program, Recharge and Recover, is the program where we're going to have companies work together with us to try to improve procurement opportunities for black and brown businesses. We've seen it done by some companies. The young lady from Comcast talked a minute ago about $1 billion that Comcast is going to invest in black and brown communities, and that's unprecedented. And things like that, we're looking forward to more things like that happening, which would really be a great boost.
The money does speak volumes, especially that level of cash. Mayor, if you can share your thoughts on this. Obviously, you took Michael Rashid to this position. He was retired. There's a definite emphasis to get this going at a large scale. Who are your partners other than Comcast? How are you going to hold these efforts accountable as people recover? What are your metrics?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy that Michael Rashid agreed to come back from retirement. I doubt he was actually retired. He's probably still working, but just in different different responsibilities. But he did agree to come back, and he's been a terrific addition to the administration. And the issue is that investing in black and brown businesses, whether or not it's the government doing it or whether or not it's the private sector, and we need both to do it. It's not just the right thing to do or a good thing to do. It's the smart thing for a city to do. Because as those businesses remain strong, get stronger, employ more people, they will employ people in the neighborhoods that they're serving, which means there'll be less unemployment, less desperation, less crime, and then also people will feel that they can invest in their own communities, buy homes, fix them up, and bring all of our neighborhoods back to where they should be. So we're working with our commercial corridors through the Commerce Department. We're anticipating in our proposed budget to continue investment in commercial corridors, to continue investment in trying to get our corridors clean and our neighborhoods clean. We'll be bringing back some services that had been eliminated because of austerity measures, and we'll continue to work with the Chamber in every aspect. And also, in our high-tech sector, in our biotech sector, which are strong, our eds and meds, which are strong, is to try to get those sectors to do black and brown spend of their own, which will enhance all of our ability to rise everyone's boats.
And obviously, this is a difficult thing to do if people aren't going to feel safe. So let's talk about the role of public safety and how it impacts a mass reopening of the city's economy across various business districts. Obviously, Commissioner Outlaw, you stepped into the job just before the pandemic. We saw a record number of murders last year, just shy of 500. What's the plan for public safety as we make a comeback?
There are huge plans for public safety, and I think it's important just to talk about the role of public safety as we make a comeback, because the two go hand in hand here. We know that people won't want to come back, whether it's to the office or go out for dinner after work or just walk outside with their children if they don't feel safe here. And this is true not just for Center City, but for all of our neighborhoods. When our economy is ready to fully reopen, businesses are going to need people to frequent them with full confidence. And if they don't feel safe or comfortable, our reopening will suffer. We also know that economic insecurity is one of the many factors that can drive an increase in violence here. So while we need our residents back at work, we also need our young people to have a safe and stable employment opportunity. So workforce development is key. It can also change the projection of a family's life, our community's lives here. So it's important for not only for us to work in partnership with our businesses here, our local businesses, but it's important for us to be in strong communication with our other stakeholders here, whether it's in the community, in our community systems here, our city systems here, our other city stakeholders, and strong communication with the criminal justice system to not only ensure that we have a strong safety plan in place, which we do, but to ensure that we're communicating to ensure that there's safety as these warmer summer months, as we're seeing, is coming upon us. So we absolutely have a plan in place. It includes not only more visibility, but to ensure that there's consequences for those who are committing these heinous acts, but also ensuring that we are working in tandem with those who are offering programming over the summer for not only our young people, but also for those who are providing jobs for our young people and our young adults to get a lot of these folks off of the streets as the weather gets warmer.
Commissioner Outlaw, thank you for that. We're going to go now to Michael to talk about this. The city currently does offer programs and resources to help businesses stay afloat. So as more and more funding is flowing to the local governments, specifically from the American Rescue Plan, can you talk about any plans to create new or existing programs now that you have that pot of money?
Well, yes, we are studying very carefully some of the news that's coming out of Washington in terms of the American Rescue Plan. We're also talking to cities around the country and chambers of commerce around the country in terms of what they're thinking and what they're doing, and looking for best models around the country. We've identified some wonderful best models that we think we're primed to put in place here in Philadelphia. We're talking to business leaders and educational institutions around our city and putting together proposals that will be, we think, very well received in Washington, and we think will generate some great ROI here in the city of Philadelphia. We're optimistic, as our mayor has said, thank God for the Biden administration coming in and looking at cities and trying to really do some historic things in terms of income equality, business equity for black and brown businesses here in the inner cities. And so we're ready. What is the slogan? Ready, set, Philly? Well, we are ready for the money coming out of Washington. We have our proposals almost ready to go to them, and when they're ready to accept our proposals, we're going to give them our proposals for some real innovative, as Sue said, not back to normal, but a new normal type of environment in our economy, especially for black and brown businesses.
Is that what your biggest hope is, Michael, for Philadelphia as we start to see the recovery happen?
That is absolutely the hope, and I want to echo what Commissioner Outlaw said. There is an absolute direct connection between economic security and gun violence and opioid addiction, homeless, all these problems that we see in our economy. To the extent that people don't feel economically equal, they're going to be doing these kinds of things. So we have to get equity. We have to get economic equity to see some of these problems go away.
Commissioner, what about you? What's your answer to that? What's your hope for Philadelphia?
My hope for Philadelphia is that, we move out of the silos that we've been working in. And I'm optimistic in that we'll be able to do that because we're already doing that. It's going to take a comprehensive approach. It's going to take, again, all city stakeholders working together. It's going to take those who've been working on the ground, grassroots organizers. It's going to take a comprehensive approach, quite frankly, and that's what we've been doing. Whether it's those who are working within or under the public health umbrella, it's going to take those who are working in the business community. It's going to take those who have the ability to provide jobs to end the economic or the job insecurities that we see. Mm-hmm. It's going to take those who have the authority and the ability to impact education and housing. It's going to take partnership. It's going to take bringing us in, for example, to some of your businesses to allow us to share some of the initiatives that we've rolled out to address violent crime so that your employees know what we're doing out here in their community so they can go back home and in their neighborhoods and share what's going on, not only with their neighborhoods. It's going to take communication amongst neighborhoods and businesses so they know who belongs in their neighborhoods and who don't. So I'm hopeful because I've already seen it happening. And I know that moving forward again in 2021, pandemic or no pandemic, that it's going to happen. We will move out of the silos. We will do it together. We will do it moving forward. And if 2020 has shown us nothing else, it's shown us that we can work together and we will get this done. I'm very optimistic.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Mayor, we're going to end on you real quick. Just your biggest hope for Philly. We continue to reset our investments in education, in job training, making sure we get the courts back up and running again, our probation and parole back up running again, working with our federal partners to help us to take some of these gun dealers down that are selling guns like crazy. We need to have better gun laws nationally, and we're on the precipice of hopefully doing that in the United States Congress. You can get a gun in Philadelphia and in Pennsylvania faster than you can get a driver's license. And that paradigm has to shift in order for us to get some of these guns off the street. The Philadelphia Police Department has taken over 1,300 guns off the streets since January 1st of this year. We'll continue to work bravely to take more guns off the street, but we got to keep them out of circulation, and we're going to need federal help to do that. Mayor Kenney, thank you. Stick with us. We're going to say thank you now to Commissioner Outlaw and Michael Rashid. Really appreciate your insight today. Mayor, we're also going to spend a few minutes taking questions from the participants in today's audience. So we want to start off with the president and CEO of Visit Philadelphia, Jeff Gorosino.
Tourism and hospitality is a critical industry for our city and for our region. And since your time in City Council, and especially now, you and your administration have been strong advocates for tourism. Our industry continues to be among the hardest hit. And as the nation's recovery begins, Tourism Economics projects that Philadelphia has the opportunity, but not a guarantee, to rebound faster than our competitors. What can you share with us on the administration's plans to bring back tourism and hospitality jobs and to support the economic revival of our city?
right now is to continue to roll out the vaccines. Vaccines every day, all week long. Get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine widely circulated, one shot vaccination, and get people feeling comfortable about being in public around each other, about getting people comfortable around the country in coming into the city of Philadelphia, into our hotels, into our restaurants. One of the things I've seen with the restaurant industry, for example, is that the expansion of sidewalk and street side dining has been a terrific benefit and response to some of the problems that indoor dining had to be shut down. There's lots of people on the street. It gives you kind of a European feel to it, and we intend to keep that going in areas that really want to keep it. And I think that that's been a great opportunity. We have to continue to get to a point where we can bring large groups in again to the convention center and to our hotels. And I think as long as we continue to get the vaccines and out into people's arms and get people comfortable about traveling and staying in a hotel, we will get back to where we were and do better.
Mayor, next we have Ellen Yin. She is the founder and co-owner of High Street Hospitality Group. Ellen.
Hi, good afternoon. It's an honor to be with you all today. Thank you, Mayor Kenney, for taking the time and for all your support over the past year for restaurants and small businesses throughout the city. As a member of the Chamber's Recharge and Recovery Committee, we identified that part of our region's recovery is dependent on the ability of small businesses to survive the economic impacts of the pandemic, and that so many of these small businesses are represented by people of color entrepreneurs. We want Philadelphia to be known as a city that grows small, people of color-owned businesses. What is the city doing to make Philadelphia a great place for everyone to do business?
Well, I think first of all, I want to thank the restaurant industry for their patience. It's been very, as you know, I don't have to tell you, it's been very, very difficult over the course of the last year. There are things that we had to do from a medical standpoint that was really hurtful to the industry and put a lot of people out of work, and we're trying to get them back. And as I said, and I think you've mentioned in the past, with our sidewalk and street side dining changes, that's been a large benefit. We have to continue to make sure that we get our folks into neighborhood restaurants, into our neighborhood strips where restaurants exist, in addition to downtown. Continue to be an opportunity to advertise these wonderful small restaurants and businesses that have developed or will reemerge or that will be started, and continue with organizations like Visit Philly and the Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Restaurant Association to continue pushing forward to highlight these businesses in our portfolio of things to do.
Mayor Kenney, next question is from Andrew Still. He is the manager at KPMG LLP and also chair of the Chamber's Young Professionals Council. Andrew.
Mayor Kenney.
Hi.
As you know, the Young Professionals Council provides personal and professional growth opportunities to Philadelphia's next generation of civic and business leaders. If you could impart wisdom or advice to a young professional today who is interested in becoming a civil servant or elected official, what would that be? Thank you.
You certainly have to have a desire to serve people. And I know many people in our city, young and old, but especially some of our young folks, really want to be public servants. It's not always as lucrative as the private sector, but it does have lots of rewarding experiences that I've stayed in public service now almost 30 years. And there's been many times where I've had that feeling of accomplishment and that feeling of that warm feeling this warm feeling of actually doing good and having an impact on people's lives. I would encourage people to reach out to their elected officials, see how they can be helpful there, to contact my office and our folks to see how they want to serve and how we can push them in a direction where they can be do the most good for the most people.
So we want to take this question from our chat here. It says, can you speak to some of the funding priorities for the upcoming budget? And then also you mentioned the city is going to look to restore parts of the budget that were cut. But how can we start investing in measures to grow the economy?
Well, some of the things that I was really disappointed with that we had to cut were things like street paving, which I've insisted be put back at a higher level. I know that one of the good things about development in our city is that we're developing property and creating tax rateables and creating places for people to live and work. But sometimes the heavy equipment and machinery destroy the streetscape. And we had a little bit of money in there in our initial budget, but I insisted on putting a lot more money into street paving. I do believe we have to continue, as I said, to invest in education. It's the most important thing that a government can do or should do in order to get our people ready for jobs of the future. And continue just to do the things that we had to eliminate that we need to bring back. And we're not going to be able to bring back everything. And let me just say in advance that this large amount of money that we're getting from the federal government is a large amount of money. But we have a kind of a structural issues that we have to deal with next year, the year after, or maybe even the year after that. We have labor contracts coming up and other things that we have to deal with. So we have the Biden-Harris administration and the U.S. Congress has gotten our heads above water and are starting to bail us out, and that's a great thing. And as Mike Rashid said, it's going to change the level of poverty in our city for the first time in maybe a generation or more. So all of these things we're looking forward to. We need to do it in a disciplined and controlled fashion. And I'm just looking forward to moving on, getting better, and having the city excel even more than it has in the past.
And last question from our audience right now. What are some strategies to attract businesses to Center City and the commercial corridors that you were speaking of?
Well, we need to clean it up. We need to get the boards off the wall, off the windows, and get the graffiti off, we have a large citywide cleanup April 10th, which is Saturday, April 10th. We need to get people feeling again that we're beyond the civil unrest. We're getting beyond the pandemic, and then we're getting storefronts ready for people to go start businesses again or to restart their businesses. Same thing on a smaller scale in the commercial corridors, the many commercial corridors we have through our city, and we'll continue to make investments in them and increase investments in those neighborhoods and in those commercial corridors. They employ a lot of people in the community, and they create a lot of tax ratables for our city. So all of these things we're going to be doing in concert with our city council, with our business community, with our labor folks, working together as a team to get Philadelphia back and better.
Well, Mayor, we have certainly covered a lot in our hour with you. Is there anything else that you would like to cover or comment on that you would like to share with the regional business community before we go?
Well, first of all, I just want to everybody knows the last year was really tough. I know that there were times when you didn't understand the decisions we made within local government, or in some cases where you just flat out disagree with us. But I want you to know that there was not a single moment, a single decision made where I and the other administration leaders who joined us today were focused on anything but doing what we believe was best for our city. I could not end today without taking the moment to thank every individual and every business who has done the right thing to keep themselves, their families, their neighbors, and their coworkers safe and healthy. And of course, the public servants who have worked tirelessly since the pandemic struck to help protect and support our residents and our businesses. As vaccines continue to roll out and more people in the region become protected against COVID-19, we are finally moving closer to a post-pandemic reality. We've dramatically ramped up our vaccination program. Kids are heading back into the classroom. We're gradually easing restrictions. And yes, eventually we'll all be back at the office. But there is a reason for hope, but only if we all continue the hard but necessary work of masking up, keeping our distance, and following other protocols. Our administration is ready to address the challenges of reviving our city head-on, and we will need all your help. The road ahead won't be easy, but we know when Philadelphians work together, there is nothing that can stop us. I look forward to sharing the brighter days ahead with all of you. And God bless you all and keep safe.
Thank you, Mayor Kenney, for all that you said today. With that, I want to wrap up with you and like to invite the President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia, Rob Wunderling, to join us. Welcome, Rob.
Well, good afternoon, and thanks to you, Lucy, for being our expert moderator for our Mayoral Forum today. And to you, Mayor Kenney, allow me on behalf of the entire business and civic community that makes up our city and our region, just to thank you for your leadership. Our chair, Sue Jacobson, made the point at the outset that you and your team have led us all through very difficult and unforeseen circumstances. And as you just noted a moment ago, that we are learning a lot about how to work differently together. And it's a big we. It's a partnership with the private and public sector. We've become highly collaborative, highly innovative, and of course, always highly committed to the future of our great city of Philadelphia, which is why we at the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia are just absolutely brimming with optimism as to a very bright and inclusive economic future for our citizens. I also want to pause again at the end of this program to thank our sponsors. And as all things with our Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia, we're in service to our members, to our city and our region. But this event could not be possible without the underwriting support of so many Chamber members. We appreciate their efforts today and throughout our entire program year. And then finally, let us, as we adjourn this time together, just to remain hopeful, stay safe, stay healthy, and this session of this first virtual forum with our Mayor of Philadelphia stands adjourned. Have a great day, everybody.